The Chernobyl reactor, with its fallen concrete cover, glowing graphite and radioactive radiation that can kill everything in seconds, and you're stuck in the middle of it all, trapped in a lead capsule weighing tons with a rope that suddenly jams.
Just imagine that. This video is about the incredible story of the bathyscaphes, lead capsules that hovered above the reactor with people inside. This will blow you away, promise, so make sure to stay until the end. Welcome, everyone. If the stories from Chernobyl fascinate you as much as they do me, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel.
It's absolutely free to subscribe, you'll never miss a video again, and it'll help me a lot. Thanks a lot, guys. Drop me a line in the comments and let me know if you were alive at the time of the reactor accident and what you remember of it. I certainly wasn't around then.
After the explosion of Reactor 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant on April 26, 1986, those responsible faced a gigantic problem. How should this ticking nuclear time bomb be stabilized and contained? The damaged reactor lay exposed and was emitting radioactive material into the environment without hindrance.
The only realistic solution was to build a massive structure, later known as the sarcophagus. But how could it be built if you couldn't get close to the construction site? Immediately after the accident, radiation levels near the reactor were between 30 and 50 sieverts per hour and even higher directly at the reactor. By way of comparison, a dose of 4 to 5 sieverts is usually already fatal. Robots that were tried failed miserably. Their electronics were fried by the massive radiation. The video cameras of the time provided images of a quality that would make us laugh today, unusable for precise technical analysis.
So what to do? The answer was both brilliant and terrifying at the same time.
Special protective capsules were built in which people could be lowered directly into the heart of the disaster. These capsules were given the nickname bathyscaphes in reference to deep-sea submarines that descend into the darkest depths of the oceans.
The first of these capsules was designed by the Research Institute for Installation Technology, abbreviated as NICIM, weighing an incredible 18 tons. This first version was relatively small but extremely heavy. The reason? The walls were made of centimeter-thick lead, which was meant to shield against deadly gamma radiation. The lead layer reduced the radiation inside the capsule to 1/500th of the external value, which at 50 sieverts per hour still means 100 millisieverts per hour inside. For comparison, the average natural radiation exposure in Germany is 1 millisieverts per year. But in 1986, given the circumstances, this was considered an acceptable risk. And what happened during the deployment of the bathyscaphes is truly unbelievable. The construction of bathyscaphes actually resembles a small submarine. It consisted of two main parts.
One with a reinforced window lined with thick yellow lead glass and another part with a heavy lead protective door. Inside were an intercom and a loudspeaker for communication with the crane operator, two joysticks, one of which was used to control an external video camera, a small basket for mineral water, a seat, and some backup batteries. A military-grade air filtration system was installed on the roof to ensure a supply of clean air and a reasonably tolerable microclimate inside.
The men who worked in these bathyscaphes quickly received the nickname cosmonauts. They were mostly high-ranking engineers and designers, not ordinary workers.
But they all had one thing in common. To get into one of these capsules, you had to overcome your natural survival instinct, because there was always the danger that the remote-controlled crane could fail, or even worse, that the tether could snap, causing the capsule to plunge into the abyss.
Unlike a space capsule, there were no parachutes here, and now it gets fascinating. Much of the history of bathyscaphes remained unknown for a long time and is barely documented. This is no coincidence.
Boris Sherbina, the head of the Chernobyl State Task Force and one of the highest-ranking government officials on the ground, enforced an exceptionally strict information policy. As a result, many of the events surrounding the construction of the sarcophagus have been virtually forgotten, except for carefully staged heroic images for propaganda. We might know nothing about the cosmonauts of the bathyscaphes if it were not for one woman, engineer Helen Kozlova, who herself served as a bathyscaphe cosmonaut and years later collected the stories of her colleagues. One of the first to volunteer for one of these capsules was Major Leonid Gorb. His task was to assess the condition of the western wall of the reactor building. Two supports had to be constructed there for a monstrous 165-ton beam called the plane.
But when the lead capsules were lifted, a problem arose. The wind was too strong, and the cabin swayed so much that Major Gorb reported he couldn't see anything. The capsule was lowered. He was secured with ropes and dressed in lead aprons.
Then the capsule was raised again, this time with the door wide open for a better view. It was risky, but it worked, and he was able to assess the locations for the supports. Another time, a bathyscaphe capsule was used to assist in the installation of a special 28-ton metal structure. This had to be placed in order to then pour concrete into it, but then a problem arose. A cable from the diagnostic sensor tore the net and the concrete continuously flowed to the wrong place. In this critical situation, 3 top engineers boarded the bathyscaphe: Vladimir Kronosov, the chief designer of the sarcophagus, Sergei Korchagin, the deputy head of the construction site, and Leo Bocharov, the chief engineer of the project. Leo Bocharov later recalled, "There were several flights at the height of a 22-story building. As I was inspecting the condition of the supports for the plane, the crane suddenly failed and I got stuck over the reactor shaft like a light bulb in the kitchen. They told me over the intercom, 'Wait a bit, we're fixing the crane.' Of course I waited because it didn't seem like I could go anywhere, but in my bathyscaphe, it was still about 5 Röntgen of radiation. I must say it was a rather unpleasant experience."
Despite all the complications, it worked. And after hours of incredible tension, when the plane finally landed, it was a moment of true happiness and triumph. However, after the first flights, it quickly became clear that the design of the bathyscaphes was not really optimal.
Their center of gravity was too high, so they welded a counterweight to it, but they were still too small and uncomfortable, so the team created 2 types of lead capsules that could be placed on vehicles. They were larger, had more windows, much thicker walls, and a better filter system. Some of them were reinforced with extra protection and equipped with simple manipulators. There were even small openings sealed with plugs. If necessary, a stopper could be removed and a specially protected hand could reach outside.
With these new bathyscaphes, various operations were carried out, such as cutting, welding, sealing gaps, adjusting cover plates, and raking loads. But not everything went smoothly.
A dramatic incident occurred during the preparations for the installation of the 75-meter-long, 127-ton steel beam. This was to support the cover from the south side and needed a really solid foundation. But pouring the concrete was a nightmare. The wet cement seeped uncontrollably into the debris under the building, time was running out, and even Boris Cherbina considered abandoning the beam altogether. A bathyscaphe was sent to inspect the area, and during this mission, it suddenly came under the pipe that was pouring the concrete.
The cement splattered over the protective windows and completely blinded the occupants. With no other choice, they opened the door in the middle of the operation. They exposed themselves to 300 Röntgens per hour, but were able to complete the inspection. They realized that the concrete wouldn't work. So instead, a massive steel structure was built. Over the years, the bathyscaphes were used countless times by designers, construction workers, and installers. However, the greatest fear always remained that the capsule could detach from the crane during operation. In 1988, that exact thing happened, and a capsule fell from a great height.
By pure chance, there was no one in it, but further use of these capsules was then banned. After this incident, the remaining bathyscaphes remained on the power plant site for years. Around 2006, it became necessary to stabilize the sarcophagus to extend its lifespan. The bathyscaphe standing around became an obstacle, and the beta radiation level from these bathyscaphes was incredibly high, even after 20 years of constantly standing in the rain and snow.
Of course, the historical value was understood, but unfortunately, there was no truly realistic way to clean this extreme level of contamination. Thus, all the bathyscaphes were eventually removed and buried at the radioactive waste disposal site in Boryakivka. The exact number of cosmonauts who undertook these heroic flights has unfortunately been forgotten, although it is estimated that there were at least a few dozen. Thanks to the heroism of these people, it was possible to make immensely important decisions that saved lives in Chernobyl. I find it incredibly difficult to imagine what those who were deployed on such dangerous missions experienced. A single small malfunction could have completely crippled the construction of the sarcophagus. From today's perspective, it is truly fascinating how pure engineering, risk management, and ingenuity were used to overcome these challenges back then. I will, of course, keep you updated on all the other fascinating facts about Chernobyl. So feel free to subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell to not miss anything. And now we travel from the inside of the Chernobyl sarcophagus to the inside of the Earth. Scientists have discovered something incredible beneath North America. The USA is melting. No joke. North America is sinking into the depths. You can find out all about this and what it means for our image of the Earth in the video shown at the top right. Be sure to click on it, it's very exciting.
And if you can't get enough of science and space, you'll find another video on a fascinating topic at the bottom right. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, folks.